In this video, we're going to learn about polynomials and polynomial vocabulary. We're going to learn the vocabulary that we need in order to be able to classify polynomials and call them what they are. So for each of these, it really helps to break the words down. So when we see mono means one. When we see bi means two. Tri means three. And when we see nomial, that means number of terms. So when we see these different polynomials, we're going to classify them by how many terms they have. So a monomial is a one-term polynomial. This can be a product of whole numbers and variables with whole number exponents. Okay, so let's look at some examples. So I could just have a single whole number, so I could have something like the number 3 is a monomial. But I can also be a product of whole numbers and variables. So another example might be something like 12x. Or I could have something more complex. I could have exponents, so I could have something like 4x squared y cubed. But the key here is that it has to be a product. And what we mean by a product is it has to be multiplication. If we have any addition or subtraction symbols, we're no longer a monomial, because addition and subtraction symbols are what separate terms. So let's make a note here. Addition and subtraction separate terms. Okay, so a binomial is going to be a two-term polynomial. And those terms can look anything like what we had in our first example. So a binomial could be x plus 3. It could be 12x to the 4th y to the 7th minus 1. We have two terms. They're separated by an addition symbol or a subtraction symbol. We could have x, y, z plus w, v, r. The point is, we've got these two terms, two little products separated by an addition or subtraction symbol. So a trinomial is going to be a three-term polynomial. So that we could have x plus y plus z. You could also have whole numbers in there. So we could have 2xy plus tv minus 17. It is important that we have this simplified in order to accurately classify that, and we'll look at that in a minute. Then we change gears a little bit, and we're going to start looking at the degree of the polynomial, and that is going to be based on the exponent. So this is going to be the highest degree or exponent of any term in a polynomial. Okay, so if we look at an example like x squared plus 2x plus 1, I'm going to look for the highest exponent or degree of any term. Well, there's only one term that has an exponent that is written. So the degree here would be 2. And we learned recently that when we have x squared, that is called quadratic. So we have different names for these things. You can also have, we talked about monomial, binomial, and trinomial. You can also have a quadrinomial, nomial, which is a 4-term polynomial. So let's look at some examples so we can get some more practice. And I'm going to go through this little chart in order. And we're going to actually start with a degree of 0. And what we call this when the degree is 0 is a constant. Because if we have a degree of 0, let's say I have 3x to the 0. Well, anything to the 0 power is 1. So this is really just 3 times 1, or 3, which is a constant. It's just a whole number. So how many terms does this have? Well, it's just a single number. So it has one term. And then what's that called? Well, one term is called a monomial. So I would call this a constant monomial. Now let's look at degree 1. Degree 1 is called linear. And we have been looking at linear equations for a long time now. An example would be something like 3x plus 2. We don't write an exponent of 1 here. We don't write an exponent of 1, but it is an exponent of 1. And then how many terms does this example have? Well, this example has 2 terms, which we know is called a binomial. Okay, degree 2 we talked about is called quadratic. And let's do something interesting where we have a quadratic, let's do a monomial. We're just kind of experimenting and playing here. So I can only have one term and it has to have an exponent of 2 in order to be quadratic. So maybe we'll do like 9z squared. So it's one term and the exponent is 2, so it's quadratic. Okay. Now let's do a degree of 3, which we've seen. That is called cubic. And let's do something extra crazy. We haven't done a trinomial. Let's do a trinomial just to play with it. So now I have to have 3 terms, and the highest exponent is going to be a 3. So I could do y cubed plus 7y minus 5. So now I have 3 terms, and my degree is 3. So it's a cubic trinomial. Degree 4 is called quartic. And let's do a quadrinomial. So this one's going to have 4 terms, and the highest is going to be a degree of 4. So we can do 2x to the 4th, so now it's quartic, plus x cubed minus x squared plus 8x. So it has 4 terms, 1, 2, 3, 4. And then we're going to look at our last one, and it goes, we can have much higher degrees than 5, but we don't need to know the names of every single thing. So let's look at this, which is called quintic. You may have heard like quintuplets. Okay, so we've got quintic, so our degree is going to be 5, and let's do 5 terms. And after 4, I don't care if you know what they're called, so we're just going to say that this is a polynomial of 5 terms. We don't need to know every single thing. Okay, so x to the 5th plus x to the 4th minus x cubed plus x squared, 1, 2, 3, 4. I need one more, plus 1. Okay, so there's a bunch of different examples. If we are given a polynomial, we're going to want to put it in standard form before we classify it. And what we mean by standard form is that we're going to arrange the terms by degree in descending order. So that means that we have the highest degree first, and then we go all the way down until we get to the lowest degree. Okay, so for my first example here, I'm going to want to put these in the right order. So the highest degree that I see is 2. So I'm going to rewrite this in standard form, and I'm going to put 9x squared first. Then the next one I see is 3x. So I'm going to do plus 3x. And then my last is my lowest degree, which is this constant, is 5. And now I'm going to classify by degree and number of terms. So the degree here is 2. We call that quadratic. And the number of terms, we have 1, 2, 3 terms. So this is a trinomial. We've got a lot of work to do here to get this in order. The highest degree that I see is 4, so we're going to write x to the 4th. Then we have x squared, but look, we have 2x squareds. So we need to combine like terms and simplify. So this is negative 6x squared plus 10x squared, which gives me positive 4x squared. Then I have 4x and a negative 12. So we're simplified, and our degrees go from highest to lowest. Now we're going to classify by the number of terms and the degree. The degree is 4, which we know is called quartic. And the number of terms, there are 1, 2, 3, 4 terms. So that is a quadrinomial. Cool. Okay. So I have a couple of examples for you to try, and that concludes today's video.